We are going to start with the death of a man that many would call infamous, notorious, but who was once beloved. We're talking about O.J. Simpson. He has died at the age of 76 after a battle with cancer. He was surrounded by his children and grandchildren. America fell in love with O.J., who is a star running back for 11 seasons in the NFL before transitioning to broadcasting and acting. He made his name as a movie star in the Naked Gun films, but 30 years ago, in 1994, America came to a standstill watching his white Ford Bronco lead police on a 60-mile slow-speed car chase through Los Angeles. The next year, he went on trial for the murder of his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend Ronald Goldman. In a televised trial that captivated and divided the nation, O.J. was acquitted. So what do you all remember from back then when you heard about the murders? Also, watching that car chase, do you remember exactly where you were?
Absolutely. I was at a McDonald's and they had a TV in the corner and everybody was watching. It was very surreal. And Sam, as you were reading, I just had this thought of like all the things that I feel like spun off of OJ that we just take for granted now, like DNA evidence, which eventually would end up on Maury. But like when this came out, it should have been a slam dunk when your blood is there and their blood, but people really didn't know what it was. So like introduce that to our conscience for the first time. Also the LA police corruption and how that can be used against somebody or for the defense. The Kardashians were brought to us by Robert Kardashian. Court TV. And, you know, all those kinds of, like, just all-day court was never a thing until this. Kato Kaelin, all the spin-off characters, just so many things that are just a part of pop culture, and we never really realized where their genesis was.
Yeah, to just go, Jackie Child, the lawyer from Seinfeld, was up there. I still remember Judge Ito. I mean, this is like a moment in time. Like, I don't know if they're going to teach the same way they do in history books, but this is a social event.
Oh, absolutely.
That the whole, at least the United States, let alone the whole world, was involved in, right? And it really shined a light on a lot of things when people live in their bubble. It showed the corruption of the Los Angeles Police Department. It showed, it was on the heels of Rodney King, that the people who lived there weren't going to take it anymore. And no matter what OJ did, whether it was murder to people, they weren't taking it anymore. He was getting off no matter what. That's how they were going to vote.
Because enough of the people in their community
but it shined a light on it, and a lot of people were confused about why that is. We know a little bit more in detail about that. But I remember watching with my mom. My mom never shut it off. I'd come home from school. I was in high school at the time. She would be watching the whole time. But it introduced us to a whole new set of viewing. We never looked at the world like that, and especially celebrity. You could kill someone and literally get away with it. That's how elevated celebrities were at that time. They still are. I still think if you're powerful enough and, you know, a bigger, you know, up there, you could still do something like that, but on this level, no.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I remember the verdict being read because I remember there being an echo of many white people being like, how shocked, and then many black people being like very happy because a lot of white people have gone away with this forever and ever and ever, and finally this person got away with it. I also want to bring up, he was found liable of a civil suit in the killing and wrongful death of Ron Goldman, and he is owed to pay the victims' families $33.5 million in damages. I just want to shine a light on these two people because a lot of people are on OJ. He was a domestic violence abuser, and I've listened to the 911 calls, and Nicole goes to the cops, you know it's me again, you don't do anything, he's beating me again, and it's O.J. Simpson, and he would just go to anger management classes, and then at the finale, what happens in my mind, he almost decapitated this woman and Ron Goldman in a horrific violent act. So I want them to be remembered in this as well. They are part of this story forever and ever.
I think that's fair in terms of the families because obviously this is bringing more light back to their trauma. Also OJ's children who never asked to be a part of any of these things. When Tori's talking about the juxtaposition between the Black American response and the white American response, that's how it was shown in the media, and it was a very divisive picture. But I think the actual truth was far more complex than that. One, we found out that it's not a black or white thing, it's a green thing. It was in terms of the money, the power, the privilege, the celebrity, what you can and cannot get away with in this country. I remember being, and we were all young when this happened, in terms of like the verdict. I know Al, old man River over here, was a freshman in college.
Much older.
I was a freshman in high school when the verdict came came out. But I went to a predominantly white high school, and I went to a all-black church, and those conversations were very different. But even in the church, it wasn't like, oh, he should get away with it. There were comments about historically how black men have been charged with crimes, especially against white women, and they have not been guilty, and they've been hung. And then there were conversations about the idea that OJ said that he wasn't black, so why should we even be siding with him or making this our issue? There were so many more complex conversations, but you see how the media put those two images side by side to paint the narrative of what was happening on both sides of the fence.
I also think what we saw was the melting away from, if you take the racial aspect out of it, I think everybody immediately came to terms with the fact that if you have money, you can get off. And we have all been, you know, in social media, and we kind of know this now, but back then people lived their life like there's a thing called justice and law and order. And this is the lawyer is going to say what he's going to say, and the judge will rule accordingly with the evidence. And we all started to realize, especially when more of these trials were televised, that that's not the case at all. And
I just remember learning, this was a very naive stance, but I couldn't believe that you could just create a defense.
Right.
I never understood. I always thought that you just, both sides, whether you're a prosecutor or whether you're the defense, your job is to find the truth.
Right.
I had no.
That's what I'm talking about, that naivete. Isn't that crazy that people thought that?
But that's like,
it makes, that's how I felt the same way.
The rise of Johnny Cochran is the rise of the defense attorney, of making the other story. He really created that. If it doesn't acquit, if it doesn't fit, you must acquit. He created a whole other narrative. You're absolutely right.